Hello there! It's Friday, which means it's time once again for the best movie podcast ever. The only movie podcast to offer objective and hyperbole-free discussion of every movie in the known universe. I am your host, the podcaster with no name, Konrad, and with me as always, Moses supposes his toasters are roses, but Moses supposes erroneously, it's Anthony James!
Good afternoon, good evening, good night. Oh, that was a great one. I was really like a deer in the headlights there because I was like really trying to figure out. I thought it would be a great idea in the moment to say good afternoon, good evening, good night, but in Spanish because of our main feature. But no, I didn't know what they were.
Buenas tardes.
Yeah.
Buenas noches. And I don't know the other one.
You're better than me. I knew it was buenas noches. That's the only one
I think buenas tardes might be good morning, actually. Sorry, my Spanish, that might even be Italian I'm speaking there. Listen, I apologise to all of our friends on like the continent of Europe. We've let you down there. We've let you down. Anthony's let you down. But I tell you what's not going to let you down.
Continent of South America, actually. If you're
and South America as well. All of them. Listen, just unilaterally, we apologise. What is not going to let you down is the best movie podcast ever this week. I'll tell you for why. We are dancing in the streets of the little Dominican Republic with John M. Chu's In the Heights. Yep, that's the name of that movie.
That's the one, yep.
We've got a big budget. Back to the feature, not to give too much away, but a big budget back to the feature this week. And I'm going to talk about big robot anime for about half an hour in the news section. Anthony, are you ready to talk about some gosh darn movies?
Let's do it.
Movies, we're here to talk about them. I'm going to start in the only place that I can start, and that is with Mobile Suit Gundam. The compilation movies have been added to Netflix. Anthony, do you know anything about Gundam?
Is this a mech-based anime?
It's a mecha anime for a start.
I've got my Overwatch talk on now. Do I?
Mechs are more Western, kind of like clunky things.
Okay.
Mecha are slightly more humanoid. But so Gundam 1979 was the original series. It ran for, I think, like 150 episodes. They released like 3 compilation movies in the mid-80s with some updated animation, and they've added all 3 of them in the original Japanese, plus I guess you call it a sequel. The Gundam timeline is weird, but they've added a sequel called Charles Counterattack, which takes place after another series called Zeta Gundam, which I have also seen, but is not on Netflix. It's never been a better time than now to get into mecha anime, and I really can't recommend it enough for everyone.
Okay, well now, is it suitable for a child?
No, not in the slightest.
No, okay.
No, it's like Gundam is very much like I got into Gundam through, as I think probably a lot of people in the UK did, through Gundam Wing, which was on Cartoon Network / Toonami after Dragon Ball Z in the late 90s and early 2000s, and that one is just about a lot of robots like blowing up, like cool robots blowing up a lot of stuff, which very much appealed to me as a 15-year-old. And then I went back and watched a lot of the earlier series of Gundam and the later ones as well, and it's really more about like kind of an anti-war stance and like the horrors of war that just happens to have cool robots in it.
But you say it's like violence level is around the same as Dragon Ball Z?
I'd say it's still more harrowing.
My kids are still too young for it, but
yeah,
but
like
still.
People like the deaths of like. I mean, it's it's kind of. It's cartoon violence and it's not gory or anything, but it's quite harrowing. Like characters die in really meaningless, sad ways. But it's great. It's great stuff. And I wanted, this is our podcast, and I'm allowed to talk about mecha anime for as long as I want. And this is my mecha anime section. So if you've ever,
so what's coming out now? Then they're bringing out what, a prequel, sequel, what?
Well, okay. So there's like. Here we go. Okay, all right. I didn't want to do this, but you forced my hand here. So
there's timestamps in the bottom, guys.
So there's a thing called the Universal Century. All right, all right, okay. And the most of the early stuff in the Gundam series, including Mobile Suit Gundam, Zeta Gundam, Charles Counterattack, and a couple of things after it, take place in the early Universal Century. But there's also late Universal Century. There's also After Colony. I'm not going to get into all of that, but basically the Universal Century stuff, that's like the early Universal Century stuff, that's your main series. That's your bread and butter right there for your Gundam. And everything that's been added to Netflix is part of the early Universal Century. The reason is that there's a new Gundam series, or it might be a movie actually, I haven't read that much about it, called Gundam Hathaway, which is about one of the main characters from Mobile Suit Gundam's son, that is coming to Netflix in the next couple of weeks. So they're prepping.
It's a spin-off.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, it's a direct sequel, so they're priming the pump.
Mhm.
They're priming the pump for Gundam Hathaway to land on our shores. I think it's in the next couple of weeks. I'm very excited about it. And I would say anyone who's ever had even the slightest interest, go do yourself a favor, go and watch them. They have dated a little bit, but they're still great. They're so influential.
When we say mecha, are they like big Transformers? No. Sorry, I mean Power Rangers type mechas, or are they like just like single, solitary sort of Avatar style mechas?
Yeah, well, so it's a single pilot, and they do vary in height, but they're probably about like 30 meters tall. So you've got a single pilot, you know, and there's no like kind of gestaltness. You know, you're not getting like a Voltron or a Megazord situation here.
Yeah.
Like it's very much one pilot, and the pilot is normally a child soldier, and it does get into that being like, hey, maybe we shouldn't be asking 18-year-olds to kill people, or even younger than that in some cases. But it is phenomenal. I'm not going to talk too much more on it because I've already overstayed my welcome. I can feel it. I can sense the anxiety in the air. The listeners are going like, I don't know how long this is going to go for.
The listeners are happy that I have not seen it, because otherwise we would have been talking about it for half an hour.
Yeah, the listeners are thanking their lucky stars that only one person on this podcast is an anime nerd.
I've seen a few.
Yeah, you've said you're well versed in the big stuff. You're just not as deep, not as in the weeds as I am.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But so okay, this is we're operating in this news section. We're operating on a one for me, one for you situation here. And Anthony, I know you're a big fan of Jerry Seinfeld.
Well, I'm a big fan of his work. I don't know about himself.
Yeah, well, okay, yeah, sure, his work. So the natural question then is, what is the ideal project for Jerry Seinfeld in 2021? That's right, it's a movie about Pop-Tarts. Are you excited, Anthony?
I was hoping you'd say B-movie too.
No, he's not content with being a complete meme after the B-movie. Now he's going to make a movie about he's going to, direct and star in a movie about the creation of the Pop-Tart.
So hang on, is this? I was going to star in it. So is it going to be an animated film, or is it going to be
no word,
live action?
No word yet. But which would be worse? I think live action might be worse.
There's no way this is good. I'm just going to go out on a limb and say there's no way this is good. No. I think that it's very Jerry Seinfeld's done hardly any fiction comedy.
Yeah.
Since he finished the show Seinfeld, he did B-movie.
Yep.
Okay, that went how it went. It has its place in the world. Like, let's be honest. The Honey Trial, it's a strange movie. We'll say that, but he hasn't done much else. He's just, you know what he's done? He's actually he's produced game shows and stuff and done.
Oh, is that what he? Okay,
and he also does comedians in cars. Comedians in cars getting coffee.
That's literally the only thing I know him for post Seinfeld, I think.
Well, he made so much money, you know what I mean?
Was he in Curb Your Enthusiasm? I can't remember.
He was. Actually, he's been in it a few times. And actually, I will say, if anyone is a fan of Seinfeld but hasn't watched Curb Your Enthusiasm, probably not many of you out there, but even if you're not, if you're having even a cursory idea of what Seinfeld was, they never did a reunion. Also, I will go out on a limb and say neither did Friends. So even though they have a film called The Friends Reunion, I started watching it the other day, and it's literally just James Corden talking to them.
Oh my god! We'll come back to that in a second, because holy shit, that thing.
Yeah. So I didn't watch it all. I have to be honest, I couldn't. But basically, Seinfeld did do a reunion, but you never really know about it because it's in Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Oh, okay.
Curb did like a 3 or 4 episode sort of arc where they made the Seinfeld reunion show within Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Oh, okay,
and it's
that
really
sounds
good.
great. I very much kind of dropped in and out of Curb Your Enthusiasm. Just saw odd episodes. I always liked it. But I never properly committed to watching it, and I didn't see those. But I should check those out.
I think it's season 7 potentially. I think that's
okay.
All right.
Well, I mean, he's not doing that. He's doing a movie about the creation of the Pop-Tart. Netflix are producing it because Jerry Seinfeld just wants to be a meme now, I think. And
so it's gonna be like the Michael Keaton film The Founder, but about
I wonder
Pop-Tarts.
if it's going to be like that. Actually, I never saw The Founder. I assumed that it was a snidey piece of kind of pro-corporate propaganda and didn't watch it. But
no, it actually wasn't pro-corporate. Weirdly enough, actually.
Oh, okay.
The creators of McDonald's were very clearly shown to have been rinsed in that film. They actually,
okay.
I by the end of it, I did not like McDonald's. So but maybe like it wasn't as harsh as it could have been, but they definitely showed the story of Michael Keaton's character taking the business and stealing it from the actual McDonald brothers.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, maybe this will be like that. Maybe it'll be a smash hit of the summer. Who knows? Fast 9 is the reigning champion at the moment, but it's wet.
They go to space. They go to space.
Yeah, I don't know why I'm talking about Fast 9 as well, because this movie's clearly not going to come out this year. It's going to be out in like 2 years' time, probably. But Fast 11 or whatever. Maybe we should do
Fast 9 next week. I haven't even seen. That'd be funny actually, because I haven't even seen Tokyo Drift. That's the last one I saw.
I was like my part. I was going to mention this to you, and potentially off air, but we'll have the discussion here. My partner's a big Fast and the Furious fan. I think I've seen the last one. I've seen all of them. I couldn't tell you what happens in most of them, to be honest. But maybe
I am up for binging them. I'm up for binging them this week. I really am. I've only seen Tokyo Drift. I've never seen it since it stopped being about cars.
Okay, that was a while ago. That was like Fast and Furious, the reboot. I think was the 5th one. I can't even remember. I'm so out of touch with it. I think this one's got John Cena in it. That's all I know about this one.
It does, because The Rock's on it. You have to get John Cena.
Yeah, that's how it works. Okay, so I'm just going to briefly stop over in something that we said we were going to mention, and that is who keeps on giving James Corden jobs? Because I feel like he's a national embarrassment at this point.
James, it's interesting actually, like because I don't hate James Corden. Having said that, I am very sickened by him.
Would you say you were disgusted with him?
Yeah, I'm disgusted with him. Peter Rabbit, come on, that's not Peter Rabbit. As Mark Kermode says, it should just be called the very annoying rabbit. But basically, James Corden went to America where he's commodified being overweight in English. That's it. His back whenever he was, I'm gonna be honest, right?
As if he's got that market cornered.
Yeah, people who are also football fans, like soccer fans, go and watch James Corden and the England team when he was being Smithy.
I watched that on YouTube. Recommended that to me probably a couple of weeks ago, and I
you hadn't seen it?
No, I had seen it, but I went and rewatched it, and I remember watching it at the time and being like, "This is great," and I watch it now, and I'm like, "This is the reason we lost that World Cup."
Well, I'm not even going to talk. Obviously, I don't want England to win, but I mean, it is good. It is good. It's just that obviously now he's just everywhere. So when you watch that, it's also poisoned. But he has done funny stuff in his career. It's really interesting that he's become like the late night show host where he's like created like this carpool karaoke, and he's everywhere. How does he do so much films? Like, what's going on?
I don't know if I agree that he's done some funny things in his career at this point.
You said you used to laugh at
I used to, yeah, when I was like 20 and didn't have any taste, and now I've grown up and realised what a fool I was.
He's grown up and he's very excited for the new Gundam.
Yes, well, I tell you what, that would get me back on board with James Gunn. I just called him James Gundam, James Corden. If he came out as a Gundam fan, that would be enough to get me back on board with him. And we will come back to Carpool Karaoke later because that's going to relate to the movie we're about to talk about. All
right, okay, but he is very annoying. I do agree with you.
So the last bit of this news segment, more again, one for you, one for me. June, not June the month, but June, the Denis Villeneuve movie about deserts and sandworms and
Yeah, I really wanted to see that actually, but I didn't.
Timothy Chalamet doing.
Oh, it's not out yet. That's not out yet.
No, so it's been moved back to the 22nd of October of this year. It's gotten out of the way of that James Bond film because that's got a set date now. So
what's that one called again? Something about death?
Time to Kill, I think.
Time to Die, No Time to Die, or something like that.
No Time to Die, yeah, something like that. It's always about death. Yeah. But so the interesting thing about this news is that it's been moved back 3 weeks to get out of the way of James Bond, and it'll now release on the same weekend, a weekend that may very well kill me, because it's releasing on the same weekend as The French Dispatch, which is the new Wes Anderson movie, the animated movie about journalists, Jackass 4, which I will be seeing, and Last Night in Soho, which is an Edgar Wright movie about like kind of a thriller set in 60s London starring Anya Taylor-Joy. So I might not leave the cinema that weekend.
I might have to do my record again. Because I've done 4 films in the cinema in one day before. I'm probably gonna have to do it again.
I'm just gonna have to see all of those, and also Edgar Wright's got 2 movies out this year. Like somehow he's got Last Night in Soho, and he's also got The Sparks Brothers, which is a documentary about the eponymous band, the Sparks Brothers, who I don't really know anything about, but that's coming out in a couple of months, I want to say.
Well, I think I'm actually at the point now where I can justify, because the COVID restrictions are easing, I can justify getting my all access pass to the cinema again. It's like £13 a month. You know?
Yeah, use it while you can. I wish I had access to something like that. But yeah, so that weekend in October is gonna be nuts, and if all goes well, you may not hear from me again after it, because I'll have died as just like an atrophied husk in the cinema, having not drunk anything for 48 hours. But that's going to do it for our news section. I had my Gundam talk, we've had our Jerry Seinfeld Pop-Tart talk, and we've had our Dune talk, which is going to lead us quite naturally into the absolute opposite of a desert planet. This is a verdant rainforest of content that we're heading into now. It is, of course, your favourite and mine, the exciting new game show feature. Game show feature. I tripped myself up there by saying one of the words in the title. You can tell I'm professional at this. It's back to the feature!
Say it every week, but I am so excited. I'm so excited. I'm gonna get this. Could this be the 5-point week? Who knows? Could be.
I can't. There's something I want to say about this that I can't say because I worry that it will immediately give away what movie this is.
Okay.
So I'm not going to say anything, but we'll get to that at the end. Hello and welcome to Back to the Feature. If you haven't seen this before, it's the exciting new game show feature where I have selected a movie from 25 years ago today, and Anthony will have 5 opportunities to guess that movie. Each time he hears a clue, it will lower the score he receives by 1. And of course, please play along at home. Anthony, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, here we go. Without further ado, here's Back to the Feature.
Yes.
Clue the first. Clue 1. This movie holds the record for the most miniature model work to ever appear in one film. By number of miniatures is how that's calculated, I should add.
Interesting. Most miniatures ever to appear in a film.
I couldn't believe that this was true, to be honest.
Okay. Now, my brain is immediately going Star Wars, because I know that Star Wars... Is 96 too early? I think it is too early. I think it's too early for The Phantom Menace. Yeah, it definitely is. I saw it in the cinema and I remember it vividly. Okay, so it's not
How could you
that.
forget it? All the exciting parts of the Phantom Menace with the international trade talk.
I mean, it was fantastic. Like if you forget that, yeah, that was pretty boring. But the lightsaber through the door, come on. Right. Let me see. So it's not that. Having said that, I do know that there was more practical effects in the Phantom Menace than there was in any of the previous 3. People don't know that actually. So the most miniatures ever used in a film. It's a big one, 96. I think we've talked about Titanic before. I don't think that was 96 either. Most miniatures. So I'm thinking it has to be something to do with, like, I'm assuming miniature sets. It wouldn't just be all miniature spaceships or anything like that. Miniature sets, I'm thinking.
I'm going to push you for an answer.
I think I've sort of talked myself around in a circle here, and I'm not going to get it here. But I don't want to say Star Wars because I know it's wrong. I'm going to say... I don't know what I'm going to say, Konrad.
You can pass. Pass is an acceptable answer.
Is that the name of the film?
One day it will be.
All right, okay. It surprised you that there was the most miniatures ever used, right? I'm just going to do it again. Armageddon? Spaceships, you know?
It's not Armageddon. It's a good guess, and I like to hear the process. Hear you working through you logicking these things out.
I'm working hard.
Okay. Clue the second. The enormous hype around this movie's release caused Warner Brothers to delay the release of Mars Attacks to Christmas, and Steven Spielberg to temporarily cancel his plans to direct War of the Worlds, which he would later pick back up in 2005.
So it's Steven Spielberg.
I don't know if this will help you anymore.
Okay. So the hype around the film, that makes me think that Steven Spielberg directed this. Could be The Lost World. could be The Lost World, which is around the same time. The reason I know that is because we went to the cinema, and my brother and my dad went to see The Lost World, and I went to see Jungle to Jungle, famously. We all know who made the better choice there.
I don't know if I've ever actually seen Jungle to Jungle.
Oh, you got to. We'll do it as a special one. The trials and tribulations of Tim Allen's career.
More trials.
Yeah. And yes, including his YouTube channel now, where he's literally paying thousands to have someone redo a car for him. Right. Okay, so I'm just going to guess The Lost World, I think.
Okay, let's check with the computer. It is not The Lost World. It's a good guess, but it's not right. Third clue. Now we're into the pressure cooker now. This is where things get interesting.
I do have another one in my mind I'm thinking of, but...
Okay. This was the highest grossing movie of 1996, earning $817 million dues worldwide.
What?
I know. One might say completely unearned as well.
Highest grossing. Steven Spielberg's involved. Somehow. He must be.
I haven't explicitly said Spielberg is involved.
I know that. But why would you mention that he had to delay something? I imagine he had to delay because he's working on this, you know? Can you reread me the second clue, actually?
Yeah, so the enormous hype around this movie's release caused Warner Brothers to delay the release of Mars Attacks to Christmas, and Steven Spielberg to temporarily cancel his plans to direct War of the Worlds, which he would later pick back up in 2005. So originally, I think he was shooting a War of the Worlds movie that was going to come out in 1996.
Right. Okay. This is difficult.
I'm confident saying this now because we're over halfway through the clues. You are going to kick yourself if you don't get this one.
Right. Okay. Fifth Element.
Oh, it's a lovely shout. Lovely mention for one of my favourite movies. It is not The Fifth Element, but it's a great, great shout.
Don't know why Spielberg would be involved now. I don't know why there would be so much hype for it. You know, but still.
I'll be interested to see if you get it on this next one. Let's see. Let's find out together. Fourth clue. The US military had agreed to allow shooting to take place on their bases and to consult with the actors playing military roles, but pulled out when they learned that a portion of the movie would take place at Area 51.
Okay, it's making me think of a few things. I'm thinking of Close Encounters of a Third Kind. That was too late for that.
Yep, that was 1979, I believe. I know, it wasn't that late.
Yeah.
Wasn't that far back.
Area 51. Oh! Got it.
I'm not asking you for an answer.
I don't know if I've got it, but I think I do. Is it Independence Day?
Let's check with the computer. Very poker face to this. It is Independence Day. He's done it. He's absolutely done it. The thing that I was gonna say was like, all you have to do is look at the date, like that's coming up, like for the next like Friday, and be like, well, okay, that's definitely gonna.
Oh yeah. 4th of July.
4th of July. Is coming up after this, so that's definitely when they wanted to release it.
Oh, I'm so glad I got it though, because I was so afraid of not, because I haven't. The first time we did it, I didn't get it, and I've got it every single time since.
You've done like you've done yourself proud there. Like you pulled that one out of the bag, having struggled. I think that Steven Spielberg avenue threw you for a bit of a loop.
He must have produced it.
No, I think he just was gonna make another kind of Aliens Invade the Earth movie, and this did so well that he was like, well, I'm not fucking making that. Like, and left it until 2005 when he made it again.
Out of curiosity, in what way is Will Smith mentioned in the last clue?
He's actually not. He's not. I went for obviously the better choice here, which is Bill Pullman.
I think like, Goldberg.
Goldberg. No, that should have been. Yeah, I could have done that. Must go faster. Like line that Jeff Goldblum reprises in this from his role in Jurassic Park. But no,
famously hacked into an alien spaceship.
Yeah, with an Apple computer. I think it's Apple. It might be Microsoft. Either way, it wouldn't work. I can tell you that right now. the final clue would have been President. This is actually quite interesting. President Bill Pullman's speech. I actually wrote it as Bill Bullman, but that's not his name. Bill Pullman's speech in this movie was filmed on August 6th, 1995, in front of an old airplane hangar which used to house the Enola Gay, the plane which dropped the atomic bomb on Hiroshima exactly 50 years earlier on August 6th, 1945. Just a weird little moment of synchronicity, that.
Interesting, very interesting. Also, very interesting to know that they literally filmed that 11 months before the film came out. That's cool.
Yeah. That seems like a sort of classic Roland Emmerich move of just being like, kind of, there's some significance here, and deciding to do it. But yeah, so there you go. Independence Day. That came out 25 years ago today. $817 million that made.
In 1996. That is ridiculous.
I knew it was a success, but I had no idea it was that much of a success. That is outrageous for a film that is okay at best.
That's good. I'll be honest with you, that is good.
Well, we're going to move from, quite naturally now, from back to the feature, talking about one movie which is a commercial success to one that seems like it might be a commercial success. That's the best segue I've got. It's the movie that we're here to talk about, and it is, of course, In the Heights. It's in cinemas now. It's John M. Chu's. Is it? I want to say it's the most recent film he's directed since Crazy Rich Asians. I don't think he's done anything else. But it's an adaptation of the Lin-Manuel Miranda musical. First things first, Anthony, credibility check. Are you a musical fan? What is your favourite musical?
I am a musical fan. I have lots of favourite musicals. They're all different types of musicals.
Yep. You've seen Hamilton and extolled its virtues to me.
It is very, very good. I don't know. I would be tempted, like in my Hamilton phases where I like listen to it for a long, then I like take breaks. Maybe I would say in those phases that it's my favorite, but I think that's a bit. I'm a big lover of. I'm a big lover of Les Miserables. I'm a big lover of Calamity Jane. Would you believe?
I've never seen Calamity Jane, actually.
You got to take yourself to the Windy City, boy, and you got to see that because it is good. So I also little known fact. I was the lead role in School of Rock.
I'll set you up for this one. There you go. Eat your heart out, Richard Linklater.
Yeah, I was also in Oliver, played Bill Sykes. So sort of did my best Konrad impression for that one.
Oi, oi! That's the traditional Bill Sykes impersonation.
Bunsen burner,
I'm a Cockney, way!
yeah, that's what I was doing basically. Big musical fan.
Okay.
I'd listened to this. This is interesting actually. I'd listened to In the Heights once, all the way through on the album about 6 years ago, and it didn't I liked it. I did like it, but it didn't stay with me the way it will now. Now that I've actually seen, it and I've seen the songs, not say it's my favorite. We'll get into it, but it will stay with me more now. Is what I'll say as a sort of a heads up. What about you? What musicals do you like, Conrad?
Talking about Lin-Manuel Miranda, my only real exposure to him is Mary Poppins Returns. Did he do the music for Moana?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't realise that. Okay, so that's actually probably my favourite thing that he's done then, because I didn't realise he did the music. He was in Mary Poppins Returns. He played the kind of Dick Van Dyke. Van Dyke is in that movie, but Dick Van Dyke analogue of the awful Cockney accent. Yeah. Lamplighter /
American guy.
But he didn't actually write the music for that either. And obviously, he was in that one episode of James Corden's Carpool Karaoke, which has worked out quite nicely for us in tying this back to our original discussion.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
But yeah, I've never Moana. I guess actually sort of does change my opinion of him slightly because I haven't seen Hamilton and I haven't loved most of his performances as an actor, and I haven't loved most of the music that I've heard of his.
His skill is composure and writing musicals. To be honest with you, the acting, it's okay.
Yeah. But I think so for me, I really do like musicals. I tend to go for more of the kind of golden age of Hollywood kind of stuff, like your Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers. I think Singing in the Rain is one of my favorite movies, and obviously that's Cary Grant. Cary Grant? No, that's not right. Gene Kelly, not Cary Grant. But that's an amazing movie. More recently, I really enjoyed La La Land. I think that was probably the last musical.
La La Land was all right. I actually didn't really like it.
I think that movie was quite divisive. Like I loved that movie.
Did very well. Did very well.
Yeah, it did. It won an Oscar, or did it?
Yeah.
It won an Oscar for about 5 minutes until they took it away and gave it to Moonlight, which was probably the right choice. But
was the right choice because they won.
Yes, yeah, exactly. They were technically the correct choice, which is the best kind of correct. Yeah, so I loved La La Land. I was also, I know we don't like to indulge the phrase guilty pleasure here on the Parish BMPE, but I have a bit of a soft spot for The Greatest Showman. I know it's a trash fire, it's badly written, none of the characters are good, but the music in that is pretty good.
I only know a few bits of music from that. I haven't watched it yet because I've been waiting for lockdown to end so I can watch it on my brother's big screen. But I am, in terms of musicals, obviously there are ones that are trying to be more sort of serious. There's also there's an idea that it is glorifying Barnum, I think, isn't it? Yeah,
P.T. Barnum. Yeah, it very much kind of whitewashes the fact that he was probably exploiting some fairly vulnerable people to kind of create the circus as we know it today.
Yeah, and he wasn't one around in real life, probably by a song. But basically, I haven't seen that film yet. I think I probably will like it. I think you know how I don't really like the term guilty pleasure. Having said that, in musicals, there's no such thing as guilty pleasures. You can love the stupid ones, and you can love the more serious ones, and
absolutely.
It's all fine.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think so. The reason I wanted to get that out of the way early, say, look, we're all musical fans here. We're all coming into this from a position of wanting to love it, and I absolutely was. And I guess we have to get into sort of general thoughts now. And let's start with you, because I suspect you might be a little bit more positive than I am. How did you feel coming out of this movie? What was your sort of general takeaway?
I actually really like this film.
Yeah,
I actually really like this movie. I'm going to be honest with you. And before I went to see it, I will confess that Konrad had told me. I asked him how he thought it was. He said he said he enjoyed it, but he said that he had an issue with the pacing. Now I'm not going to say that I didn't notice that, and we will get into that as well in the more spoilery section, but sort of halfway through, as usually happens with musicals before the big intermission, they have a big moment, and then the second half is always sort of picking up from that moment and different. I think that when you view it as not a film, but as like a filmed musical, it worked really well for me. I was pretending it was like that. I think the pacing fit exactly. I think to fix that issue, they would have had to rewrite the musical more to make it fit as a film. And maybe you could ask the question, well, what was the point of making a film then? And that's a fair question. That's a fair question.
Yeah, I think it's interesting you mentioned, the idea of like viewing it as a musical rather than a film, because I think one of the things I really felt about this is, so talking about things that I did like about this, the music is very catchy, really well performed. I think all the music is really good, and there are some moments, they're quite frustratingly uncommon, but when the kind of choreography and the kind of production design of the musical the big musical numbers is kind of let off the leash, I feel like the movie really, really soars in those moments. There's a couple in particular that we'll talk about when we get into proper spoilers, that I thought, oh wow, this is really getting good. But I think that one of the problems I had with it is that I felt like John M. Chu didn't really know how to shoot musical sequences, and I was watching it thinking, I bet this would be really good on the stage, because it's all in front of you. You just get to see the dancing, you get to sit hear the musical performances, and you get to enjoy the set all in kind of one shot. And there's probably moving parts, as there often are in West End or Broadway musicals, but there's a lot less need to kind of keep the camera moving around. And yeah, I felt it struggled a bit in presenting some of its musical numbers.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with that. There were certain musical numbers which I thought they did very well. There was, and maybe that is because they were leaning fully into bringing the sort of stage version onto the screen. But there's the number in the middle performed by the Abuela, where it properly sort of shifts out of being in the film atmosphere and just becomes like a music video almost. And they're marrying certain things from the set into lighting, and it's really lovely. I like that. I like when they did that, and also because that was the Abuela singing it, there was less movement in terms of herself, so the camera was able to slowly follow her around. I liked the scene. Like there's a scene where characters dance on the side of a building. I thought that was quite well done.
I wonder how that's done. Actually, that one in particular, I was like, I wonder how they do this in the stage show, because I assume that's not an invention for the movie. I assume that's pulled from.
I actually did assume that it was, but actually they could actually have some sort of rig on the stage which does like move, and as they climb out of the window, it changes for them. You know, they could do something like that, I suppose. I suppose if they did do that, I think I'm pretty into musicals. I think I maybe would have heard about that in that show.
Yeah.
Having said, and I think that originally when it first came out, like it's not like it was a huge budget thing, so it would surprise me. But to be honest with you, nothing surprises me. Maybe it is in, but yeah. So I liked it. I like the story of the film. I like the film basically follows a character called Usnavi, who, when we go into the spoilers, we'll talk about where the name comes from, which is funny. But it follows him as he's sort of deciding whether or not to... Well, he's actually, not deciding whether or not. He's actually committing to and planning to go to the Dominican Republic and sort of where he was born and go back there and start up a business, because he sells coffee and he has like a little a shop, and it's about him sort of saying goodbye to the community and sort of reflecting upon that. But it's also laced as well with and I think it's nicely done, to be honest with you. The political story of these dreamers who are brought when they're very young to America, or they are born in America by parents who are not legal. Let's say, I don't know what the actual correct term would be, but I know one side of the political spectrum would call them illegal, but I don't really know what the term that would be fitting for them actually would be.
Yeah.
But basically, they don't have official papers. So when their children are born, they aren't citizens, and it goes through the struggles that they have. Like, they can't go to college, they can't get driver's licenses, and it also shows how hard the struggle is to get citizenship. Having said that, I will say, this is me drawing all of that out of it. I would actually say that they do it not subtly, but they don't linger on those moments as much as something else would. They actually, it's all there for you to see, and the messages are there, but they actually stick a lot to the emotion of the community, rather than just being like, this is what it's like for us, we're terrible, this is really bad. They actually do it in a very positive way, I find, actually.
Yeah, I think they don't... So, I think, broadly, the narrative... there's like a kind of three-pronged narrative here about three characters who kind of dream of leaving Washington Heights for other parts, or I guess you could say four, actually, including the salon. These characters who are dreaming of leaving for pastures new, and it kind of explores the ways in which they achieve that and how it affects them. So you've got a character who's gone off to Stanford University and has come back because they're very unhappy. You've got a character who works in a nail salon who wants to be a fashion designer and move like downtown, closer to central Manhattan, I assume, is where the fashion industry tends to be. And then you've got Usnavi. And I think the setup for those definitely works for me. I was invested in the characters. I think before we get into spoilers, which we will do in a second, the one thing I will say is that I think the central romantic relationship between Anthony Ramos's character and Melissa Barrera didn't really work for me. I never really bought them as a romantic couple, and I was actually much more invested in Corey Hawkins and Leslie Grace's characters, who are kind of shunted off into a side plot to a certain extent. And that was one of the things I found a bit disappointing about this. And to mention that the pacing as well, it was actually, I felt like, starts really fast and then it sort of meanders its way to finding its plot, because as you say, it's got these kind of three narratives of people trying to leave, but it doesn't really do anything with them until about 2/3 of the way through the movie, and it is kind of just it's allowing you to kind of live in the world that it creates. And I think I can totally understand why someone would enjoy that, but for me it didn't really give me much to latch on to kind of story wise.
Yeah, I see what you mean, and I think that might be where, like, if you were writing this as a film, like someone pitched you the idea and you're writing it as a film, then it would be a very different film, wouldn't it? I think that, like, the idea of, like, the first half up until where the intermission would normally be, it really is just like sort of getting your fingertips into Washington Heights,
like the community,
and sort of showing you what they're going to be leaving, I suppose. The criticism you have there about the main sort of romantic storyline and how it didn't sort of really work for you, I didn't actually even reflect upon that, to be honest with you, but I think I could see why you say that. I think that I did think it was more. The other one was maybe a little more genuine, I suppose.
Yeah.
And maybe it's the way that it was. Maybe it's the way that they were introduced. Maybe like it was introduced that like Vanessa, I think the character's name is, and Usnavi. Like,
yeah,
there wasn't really the same pull towards each other.
Yeah.
You know, it was almost sort of childish flirting for a lot of it.
Yeah.
And then the moments where they sort of do go get together, they're still not really fully together.
Yeah.
And actually, there was more history in the other two characters, like they'd been together before. And when we could maybe cross over into spoiler talk now.
So I was going to say, I think that this is quite a natural place for us to say, we're going to start talking about spoilers here, guys. So if you want to see this movie or you haven't seen it yet, this is the point where you probably want to tune us out, or just listen and have the movie ruined for you. It's not really.
We can't ruin the music. Like, we can't ruin the music for you, so you'll still enjoy it. So my point is, moving into spoilers then, is that at the end of the film, this is interesting actually, because at the end of the film, Usnavi and Vanessa haven't even had their second date yet. So
you could say they haven't really had a first date, because their first date is kind of disrupted by. I think that was actually not to interrupt you, but I think the bit where I was. I started to kind of check out of that central relationship is when they have their first date and they go to a club and he's like all nervous and he's like, oh no, you go dance with these other guys who are chatting you up, because he's not very assertive, and he starts dancing with other girls, and it just felt like they missed a big part of the relationship. Like, obviously romantic, like kind of comedy drama, you always have the bit where there's a misunderstanding or a falling out that happens in the middle of the second act, and they need to have some obstacle to overcome before they get back together, and everything's fine, or maybe it's not. But I felt like they didn't really have the bit before that where it's like, oh, these guys are clearly in love with each other and they're made for each other.
I know what you mean. I think for me, I think maybe I didn't. Maybe I did like it, but I get every criticism you're making is fair, I think. But I think maybe it's because I'm putting a lot of weight on the musical moments that the relationship had.
Yeah.
And I like the song "Champagne" at the end, where she comes and to give him the champagne, and it's such a cracking song. I just love it. And also even the finale, whenever it's like, I'm staying here, and like at the end when their daughter's like looking in the camera, like, who I'm pretty sure is the little girl from I Spy with Dave Bautista, I will say.
I think she is. I think you're right.
Yeah.
What a career. What a career so far.
What a career. Like, that look in the camera, she perfectly... Like, it was so good. But I think it's maybe those big musical moments is convincing me that it was a better relationship than it was, to be honest with you.
Well, I mean, it's a case of feel, really, this. Like, I think... I can't really objectively say, oh, it was badly performed or whatever. They didn't have. I think it was a two-pronged thing for me, that their chemistry didn't really feel quite there. I didn't feel like they'd built up the relationship enough. And as you've kind of said, when you've got Corey Hawkins and I can't actually remember the characters' names now, but Corey Hawkins and Leslie Grace's characters there, who just seem to have a much more natural chemistry with each other. And they are Leslie Grace's character is the one who has gone to Stanford, come back because she feels like she's only there as like a token Latinx individual, and she's not treated with the respect she deserves. She was like searched on her first day because her roommate's necklace went missing and all this kind of stuff, and she comes back, and then that whole plot line is just kind of resolved off screen, really. Like, they don't really do anything with this plot line, and I guess I was kind of disappointed, because I was like, I really like these characters. I want Leslie Grace to be the main character, because that's the story I'm really interested in hearing about. And from what I understand as well, I could be wrong here, but I think hers and Corey Hawkins' character's relationship in the musical is a lot more, as they spend a lot more time on it there.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. I think they could have shifted that to be the main one and like sort of have them both dueling. I think Usnavi's story himself is like the central theme, isn't it? To the idea of like wanting to leave and then realizing that your community and your home is where your community is. So I think that he would have to be like still the main thrust of the story, but definitely they could have done more with them. I thought it was interesting, like the idea that her father was selling the thing for her, and I think that
Jimmy Smits as well. Her father, played by Jimmy Smits. Of which one is he in? He's in one of the Star Wars movies. He's in loads of stuff, but I was like, oh, that's Leia's dad from Star Wars. Yeah. So he, to be honest with you, he actually, it felt to me like
that storyline had maybe kind of been done before. Maybe that's why,
Yeah,
like
I
the
think
idea
that's
of the idea of like parents supporting their children in university and the child like sort of not wanting them to sell their business to do it. I think that's maybe trodden territory. So maybe that's why they sort of put it back. But I love the moment where she comes back and realizes, because at the start of the film you weren't necessarily against her, even though I felt like she was making the wrong decision about quitting because of the reason she gave. But I liked that she came to the conclusion herself, and she came back and she was like, actually we need to go and we need to fight. I thought I just love the messages of this. I thought, and it was really interesting. Some of the stuff, like I mean, I would be interested to know if the moment where like stuff like the moment where Vanessa is catcalled, was that in the original musical 15 years ago. I really am interested to know that, because if so, there's a lot of issues in this thing that Lin-Manuel Miranda has brought to the forefront a long time ago, and it makes me feel like a really ignorant white person, because I didn't become aware of these issues until like 5 years ago, maybe. And therefore, it's interesting that they were so boiled to the surface even 15 years ago that Lin-Manuel Miranda was winning Tonys for a musical about them, and we still are living in a world where these dreamers haven't got permanent status or haven't been told, every 3-4 years they have to get something passed to let them stay. It's ridiculous that it's still going, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and I do kind of like, so I mean, I guess like the main thrust of that you're talking about is I just need to look up his name. Gregory Diaz, the fourth's character, Sonny, who it becomes clear about two-thirds of the way through the movie is the son of someone who doesn't have like legal status, legal domicile in America. So he finds out that he will not be able to go to college. And I that was one of the things that I did really like, and I kind of wish they'd done more on, actually, was ending on this quite bittersweet note for his story arc, where Usnavi finds a huge amount of money in this movie and chooses to dedicate it to Sonny to pay his legal fees and try and get him a green card. But it's framed very much as this might not work, because even I think that actually the one of my favorite musical numbers in this is the big 96,000 musical number at the swimming pool, and I love it because it's this really upbeat musical number where everyone's singing about what they're going to do with this money, and it really worked for me as a kind of juxtaposition of what like most people would consider rich. And not to say 96,000 isn't a lot of money, but it's not. This isn't like the biggest sum of money in the world, but it's completely life-changing for a lot of the people who live here. But then the fact that they need to win the lottery to escape the situation in life that they are placed in.
They win the lottery and they still might not get
and then it's a brilliant return to that, like that these people like the only way we're getting out of this is by winning the lottery, and then it returns to that at the end of the movie where they find the lottery ticket is given to Sonny, and but it's still like, you have all this money, it might not come to anything, and there is that kind of strand of realism throughout the movie that I thought was one of the strongest points of the narrative.
The character of Sonny, I've got two things to say about him.
Go on.
The first one is I love the fact that he was up for fighting for the rights of his people before he found out that he was actually the son of Italy. Before he found out that it was going to be so difficult for him, because Nina said to him that you can't go to college if you don't have legal domicile. So because he found that out at the rally, he was already there fighting for people. He didn't even know that he couldn't go to college, but he was already in before it affected him. He was already into it. I really enjoyed that about it. The second thing is funniest line in my opinion in the whole thing. Close, a close second to whenever Usnavi's saying, "How do you get this gold shit off?" The funniest line for me was whenever they're having the carnival when it's really really hot, and he comes in and talks about how Vanessa was his babysitter first.
That is great.
That was funny.
Sonny's one of the best characters in this, I think.
I liked him.
He's a really strong character, and gets one of the kind of central standout musical moments in 96,000 where he gets to kind of like rap about like the how like even with 96,000 like the world isn't going to change, and he's going to like implement kind of systemic change at a grassroots level, and he feels a bit like an author insert in some ways, because it's like this kid is spitting some truths, but I really liked him. I think talking about our favorite characters and character moments leads us very naturally into Usnavi's name, which I will admit that Anthony has made this joke once already, and I was like, that's a cracker, we've got to put that in the podcast. So we're rehashing rehearsed material here. Usnavi, Anthony, how did he get that name, and what is your opinion of Lin-Manuel Miranda's pro-military stance?
Yeah, exactly. So basically, Usnavi's name is because it's US Navy, and his father saw it on a ship when he was coming into New York. Yeah. And every single time Usnavi was doing something in the film, then I would like annoy everyone in the cinema by turning to my wife and saying, very interesting political statement to have that woman so passionate about the US Navy that she'll literally kiss it. Yeah,
it's a bold stance in this day and age to be that pro-military. Honestly, I can't see it going down well with the left. But yeah, that was a nice dumb joke. I enjoyed that in the in this movie. Did you have any particular musical numbers that stood out to you in this, apart from the ones we've discussed?
I did like Champagne. I will say the one that the Abuelita sings, which I'm not 100% sure the name of it, to be quite honest with you. Having said that, it's like right before she passes away. Yeah. And the sort of she's the big linchpin in the whole community, which sort of drives everyone to question what they're doing and everything like that. And Usnavi almost sort of decides to step into that role in a way. Yeah. Not that he's going to foster a lot of children, but he sort of, in his community, he decides to be the leader, to sort of stay there and sort of build the community again. I will say I really enjoyed that role. I think that the actress did a fantastic job. Clearly, straight off Broadway, she was great. Yeah. I loved. It was really like sad and maybe a little haunting as well. Her story in that, she was singing about her mother in Cuba, and when she brought her over, and she was talking about the idea of inheriting dreams. Yeah, and the song sort of implied that she didn't actually achieve the dreams that she inherited. And then at the end, it feels like she's got a decision. Is she going to go into the light, or is she going to come back? It seemed like at the end, like she had a decision. And even though she just sang about how the fact that she didn't really achieve her dreams, she still decided to go. She still decided to go. I thought it was really interesting, lovely done. I love the musical video sort of.
The presentation of that was very striking. Mm-hmm. I thought one of the best musical numbers from a production stance, definitely.
Yeah. I really enjoyed that, and I think that it was fairly successfully highlighted how important she was to the community. Again, like I think in a musical, like a lot of it sort of just stands on the music. So I think that as a film, maybe they didn't put enough into it. But I think musically, it worked for me, and I just liked it. I thought that was lovely, and I'd watch that again.
No, absolutely. There were so I'm gonna be. My general feelings about this movie are that it was okay. I have some problems with it, as we discussed, but I think the music is... I would never have a problem with the music. I think the musical numbers are where it's certainly at its best. I think that I wanted to... it's not really issuing a clarification, but I've been reading up more about like the kind of controversy around the casting in this movie, and I thought it was worth mentioning again, although more intelligent and more eloquent people than I have discussed it in far more depth than we're going to. But so the Washington Heights is essentially known as like the Little Dominican Republic, because the vast majority of people there are from the Dominican Republic, and 90% of the people in the Dominican Republic have some kind of black heritage. And I was doing some more reading after last week's episode where we talked about the lack of representation of darker skinned Latinx individuals in this movie, and I definitely did notice it. Benny felt like Corey Hawkins' character Benny basically felt like the only character with dark skin in this movie, which was it definitely did stand out to me, and it's a shame because I feel like this movie could have... It's not... when we approach things like this, as we've tried to say in the past, this is not like a rod with which to beat this movie and say, oh, it's a bad movie because of this. Things aren't binary like this. It's not a good or bad movie based on how much representation is in it. I think it's just a shame that I feel like they got so close to making a movie that, as you say, is so brilliantly representative of, or brilliantly captures like the spirit of the place that it's trying to that it's set, and then just fails in this kind of one crucial area.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I think I don't have much to add what I've said about it before, but it's something that I wasn't aware of until you brought to my attention, and I think that it is a shame. It is a shame, and it might be. It's a shame that in the communities that it's trying to represent, this film won't be held as as high a regard as it will be in sort of communities like ours.
Yeah.
Because it didn't represent them well enough, and that is a real shame, and it's sort of. You know, hopefully the creators of the film learn their lesson.
Yeah,
from it,
well, and as I say, to his credit, Lin-Manuel Miranda was very quick to get out and be like, "Yep, I screwed up. I should have, we should have paid more attention to what we were actually doing here," and hopefully it don't happen again. But I think I'm trying to think what else I wanted to mention about this. Oh, the last thing I was going to mention about it was I don't think you've actually seen this movie, so this might fall completely on deaf ears for you. But this is the second musical/music related movie I've seen with Corey Hawkins in this week. The other being a rewatch of Straight Outta Compton, the NWA biopic where he plays Dr.
Yeah,
Dre.
I haven't seen it. Yeah, I haven't seen it yet.
And I do think that Straight Outta Compton is a better movie.
Well, from what I've heard, Straight Outta Compton is apparently very, very good.
Yeah, it's a great movie. I was kind of like, I did spend a while while I was watching this movie like looking up what other things these people were in, and I found out that Anthony Ramos was also in another, I guess you could kind of call it a musical, in a Star Is Born. He was Lady Gaga's friend at the restaurant in that.
Oh yeah.
So they've got a rich pedigree.
Oh, he was. Yes, actually, I remember that because he's also in Hamilton, and I recognized him from Hamilton there, and he did really well in this, I thought. And also, in the moment where Lin-Manuel Miranda's dancing through the bus, and then there's the guy who's the ice cream guy.
Yeah, the Mr. Whippy guy or whatever.
Yeah, the Mr. Whippy guy. He actually played George Washington in Hamilton.
Oh, okay. That's in. What? Yeah. So did Anthony Ramos start on or Ramos? I'm not sure how he pronounced it, but did he start on Broadway then, or what? Is he a Broadway actor as well?
Yeah, well, he was in the original cast of Hamilton.
Yeah.
He actually plays a character. I can't remember his name, but there is a lot of people who think there's like a conspiracy that Hamilton and him had a lot of had a particular relationship, which wasn't documented in the history books. And there's a lot of fan art, we will say, about that.
God bless them. God bless musical fans.
God bless them. But yeah, so no,
that's interesting. That is very.
I will say now, actually, musical fans and Hamilton fans. Konrad has not seen it. What we're doing is we're waiting till we are together in person, and then we're gonna, because I want to watch it with him for the first time, so he watches it with me for the first time, and then we'll do a podcast about Hamilton at that point.
I'm looking forward to watching that. I think it's interesting that Anthony Ramos was in Hamilton, because honestly, when I see someone start like obviously it's like kind of appropriate to the place that this is set, but when a musical starts and one character is notably like doing spoken word and rap a lot more than all the other characters, I was like, can you sing? Like are you just like, are you kind of like having to?
You haven't seen Hamilton yet, Konrad.
Yeah, but that's
exactly it's the style of Hamilton. There's some songs in this which could literally just be put into Hamilton.
Yeah.
They're the exact same style. There's even a couple of like musical motifs which I was watching it and I was like, me and Ema both were like, oh my god, that's like basically a verse of Hamilton, you know? Okay,
well that's interesting. And as I say, while I had mixed thoughts on the kind of narrative and the structure of this movie, I think the music was great. So if the music in Hamilton is similar to this, I am sure I will enjoy Hamilton when I finally get round to watching it. But it sounds like you would recommend this movie then, Anthony.
I would. Yes, I would. I would recommend it actually. Yes, but go into it knowing that it is a musical, and the pacing is not the same as a normal film. I think if it was a normal film, there's no way it would have been 2.5 hours long.
Yes, yeah, I think, yeah, they felt overstuffed in some places and then really bare in others, which is a weird thing to say about a movie, but it just, yeah, it was bloated in some parts, but overall not bad. I'm excited to see, well, I guess what Lin-Manuel Miranda does next. probably got another music. I don't know when this came out actually in Broadway. Did you say it was 2015?
No. This is actually his first one. So this
is
came
the
out.
First one. Oh, okay.
Yeah, this came out like the actual original cast album came out in 2008, but I don't know when I think it probably started off Broadway first and then sort of moved in, but I don't know when it originally started. But it was like about 15 years ago.
Oh, okay, well there you go. Maybe he's got something cooking for us. But I think that is going to do it for us here.
Well, before we do, Conrad, I've actually got something to talk about.
Oh,
and I think it's going to be 1 or 2 minutes, but I think the listeners might be interested in this.
I'll be
yesterday in my hometown, I went down to get some Chinese takeaway. Would you believe it was lovely? The same Chinese takeaway that I worked in for 6 years, from the age of 13 to 19.
Oh yeah, I know the very one.
And next door, there is an old shop which used to be a DVD and video VHS rental shop.
Okay.
And they have decided very recently to end their DVD rentals. So this is now, there's no more DVD rentals in my hometown at all. The main chain one is gone, and now this is the independent one gone now as well. But because of that, they're selling off all their DVDs for a pound each. So we picked up 3, and I was gonna show the audience what ones we got.
Oh yeah, I can't wait. Yeah, let's do this.
So they're films that we should have seen, but we haven't seen yet. I'll start with the most disappointing. I will say that I didn't choose them.
You haven't watched these yet. At the point of recording, you have not yet watched these DVDs that you purchased.
I have never seen. Well, yes, I haven't seen them, but I also have never seen the films. So, and Ema also got them without me knowing. But I think they're interesting enough. The first one, probably the most disappointing, The Secret Life of Walter Mitty.
Oh, I don't. Have I seen that? I might have seen that. I don't remember anything about it either way.
Ben Stiller directed it. If it was anything like The Cable Guide, probably not very good. But I know that what do you call it? Ema probably bypassed some pretty good films because she just wanted to buy ones we hadn't seen. I will strategically cover up someone's face on this next one.
Oh boy.
And that is Baby Driver.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That's okay. I'll be interested to see what you think of Baby Driver. That was one of those movies where it was good. I feel like there's a character who's very good bad guy who leaves that movie way too early, and then they kind of scramble to replace him in the cast and don't do a good job. And I think it's one of those movies where people were tricked into liking it because it had a lot of licensed music in the soundtrack. But I'll be interested to see what you think. I enjoyed it still, but I didn't think it was as good as everyone said it was.
Okay, yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing that now.
I'll be interested to see your thoughts.
And the last one, well, it's the last one, but I have another one to show you, which I didn't get from the shop, but I want to show you. The last one is Murder on the Orient Express.
Ah, Kenneth Branagh. I think that's Kenneth Branagh who directed that.
Yeah, he directed that. Yep.
I've wanted to watch that for quite a while now because I Kenneth Branagh, good director. That cast. I mean, there's someone who we have to cancel in that cast, unfortunately, as well, because Hollywood. What are you going to do? There's always shits about. But an absolutely stellar cast in that. I can't imagine it's going to be anything but good fun at the very least.
Yeah, exactly. And last one, which I didn't get, we were actually given this. I assume we were given it because it's still in the cellophane. Okay. Maybe he just lent it to us by Ema's father, and that is something that I really cannot wait to watch.
Oh boy,
Time Bandits.
Oh, the Terry Gilliam movie. Yeah, I haven't seen that since I was like, God, I was probably 6 or 7 the last time I saw that movie. I remember enjoying it.
Written by Michael Palin and Terry Gilliam, directed by Terry Gilliam.
Yeah, I think you'll enjoy that. It depends where do you fall on Monty Python humor as a general rule.
I haven't watched anything Monty Python since I was a teenager.
Okay.
But I will say that I like Holy Grail and I like
Life of Brian.
Life of Brian. They're the two that I really like. I never watched the TV show. And the Meaning of Life one didn't really hit well with me.
Yeah, Meaning of Life is a bit hit and miss. Although I think the funniest bits of Meaning of Life are up there with the best. But I mean, if you like Monty Python, you'll probably like Time Bandits because it's similar kind of humor. Not as much, but similar kind of humor.
So because he knows I love time travel films, so he gave it that. I was like, is this like the type of time travel film I like?
But well, maybe we've got ourselves set up for a future episode with that one.
Yeah.
That'll be the natural sequel to Primer is Time Bandits.
yeah, the true best time travel film of all time.
Is this the best time travel movie ever? We'll just use that title for every single one.
Everyone for the next 20 episodes.
Well, there you go. That's a little morsel, some crumbs for you to enjoy, dear listener, to maybe give some hints of what we will be talking about in the near future, or maybe not. Who knows? But that's going to do it for us here on the Best Movie Podcast Ever, which leaves us with one simple question to answer, as we always do, and that is, Anthony, what's your favourite movie?
Hamilton? Is that a movie? I'll go Hamilton.
There's a film version of it, a filmed version, I should say. Mine is La La Land. I love that movie. Sorry, no, it's Moonlight. No. Warren Beatty is checking the card and it actually says Moonlight. Sorry, Ryan Gosling. Thank you to Nancy Wyatt and Jared Iscariot for the use of our theme song. You can find a link to their stuff in the link below. And thank you to you for joining us. Please consider subscribing if you haven't already. We're the Culture Cave on YouTube and the Best Movie Podcast Ever on podcasting apps. Give the show a like, get involved in the comments. It really does help. And we will see you same time, same place next week.
And cut.